Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Founder and Chairman, CEO Club, Mr. Niazi sir, an inspiration to all of us in terms of building new platforms, rainbows, and opportunities for leadership. Honorable Chairmen of the Board, Chief Executive Officers, distinguished delegates, speakers and friends. It's a privilege for me and a pleasure to speak this morning about Pakistan. My short chat is structured into two parts. The first part is a bit of history, because I'm a product of history, and so is my family, and so is each one of you. And Pakistan is at a crossroads where there seems to be great concern and a bit of pessimism about the future of this nation. I feel otherwise. Pakistan is a very young nation of 72 years. As you go through history, it takes over 1,000 years for a nation to mature, develop, and come of age before we can have reasonable expectations. Look around. In my journey in Japan, spending 3 years in the Orient, in North America, in Europe, unquestionably, each of those cultures and societies took over 1,000 years. And I think it's only appropriate that we give Pakistan the opportunity to grow and manage the challenges which are not only economic, but a whole host of things on our agenda. I would like to cite two historical incidents, and most of you might be fully aware, but it's always good to refresh. Pakistan was the last front for the Cold War that started back in the 1950s when I was a little boy. And there's some people in this room who perhaps were not even born. The Cold War started at that point in time between the US and USSR. The latter doesn't exist anymore. And the last front for that war was the invasion of Afghanistan in 1979. That invasion defined how Pakistan will be over the next 40 years. 1979, fast forward 1989, Pakistan got embroiled for no fault of his, and that war was dragged into it, and we received 4 million refugees as a consequence of that war. That 4 million refugees were rehabilitated, relocated, amalgamated at the cost of Pakistan. The cost in monetary terms, ladies and gentlemen, exceeded $100 billion. What we received from the US, the European Union, and the world all over was a very petty amount, which was less than 10%. 90% of the funding came from this country. As we were recovering from that debacle, which was imposed on the territory of Pakistan, came 9/11. Pakistan did not cause 9/11. We had a party to it, nothing to do with it. But the world turned towards Pakistan, and it became the center of the scourge of terrorism. So here we are, 2001, 2015, 14 years of the most intense battle in the history of the world in terms of dealing with something with which the world has no experience. One more time, Pakistan invested tens of billions of dollars, very little international economic, social, and development assistance that came through. So between these two episodes, the last front of the Cold War and 9/11, this country invested thousands of lives, civilians, paramilitary, military, and hundreds of billions of dollars of its own resources to try and manage a situation which was mission impossible. Just look at the plight of refugees. The number is 50, 75, 100, 150 nations refusing to let the ships dock. 4 million? Unheard of. There was never a refugee population during the First World War, or the Second World War, or during the Korean conflict, which even came close to this. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is only reasonable for us to step back from the intensity of the current economic challenges and understand that Pakistan has invested hundreds of billions of dollars, which is far more than the total sovereign debt of the country, which is minuscule compared to what we have done over the last 40 years. It will take us some time. I'll just cite one more example for you, very recent, nothing to do with Pakistan. Put things in context. Greece went bankrupt. Argentina is on the verge of bankruptcy. Greece owes $1 trillion, 10 times the total sovereign debt of Pakistan, and is defaulted, continues to default, and stands tall in the European Union. Take context, perspective, a historical view is important if the leadership in this room and the leadership around the country would give Pakistan the due credit. Can I hear an applause for Pakistan, please? Second part is to make 7 recommendations to this august audience, the same recommendations to go through the CEO Club, to our civilian government, to the military establishment, and these are for the renewal and revival of the economy. We can debate them, and that's absolutely wonderful to have a debate, but I think some of them will clearly ring a bell. We must bridge the external funding gap, and we are trying to do that to the best of our ability. Second, increase the saving rate to 20% of GDP through developing the housing market, mobile banking channels, and a host of other opportunities that we have in the economy. Number 3, absolutely vital, we are underrepresented in international trade. Long-term plan for the renewal of exports through a strong 5-year incentive program. Number 4, a long-term integrated business strategy for CPEC. Number 5, scaling up the labor force for the digital age and the jobs of the future. I would underscore the jobs of the future because that's where it's at. Integrate Pakistan far more effectively, and I think Dr. Salman Shah and other eminent speakers throughout the day will focus a lot more on how we can integrate Pakistan into the international trade and finance markets. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, maximize earnings from existing infrastructure and natural resources. Currently, our utilization and earnings return from infrastructure and natural resources is one of the lowest on the planet. It's a huge opportunity for us. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for giving me the occasion to speak this morning.